Hello everybody, it's Fufu here, and I'm back for another episode of our Why We Need series, which I do with my friend John. We do these videos every Wednesday, and what we talk about is why we need blank for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It's a different topic every week, and we are on to a very cool topic this week, which is Alolan forms, and specifically on this channel, I'll be talking about Alolan Granbull. This is a potential new thing that could be coming, but what are we going to be talking about over on your channel, John?
On my channel, we're going to be going over the possibility of Alolan Qwilfish and why we believe we do need it in the newest games.
That's going to be really cool. Qwilfish is a Pokemon that probably hasn't gotten as much love as some others, so go and check that out on John's channel, but today we're focusing on Granbull, so let's get into it. So what we want is an Alolan form for Granbull. Granbull is a really cool Pokemon that came in the second generation as a normal type. It is now a fairy type, which is pretty cool. There aren't that many physical attacking fairy types, and it is very powerful, really monstrous looking, but it would be cool if it got an Alolan form, just because Granbull you don't see used too much competitively, and it would be cool to just be freshened up a bit, I feel. From a Generation 2 Pokemon, I think that this would really be nice with a Generation 7 twist.
When it comes to why we think it might happen, we have seen a few different leaks at this point pointing directly at Johto Alolan form Pokemon. And at this point, we've actually seen two big ones, with one with just the general Johto forms, and then one specifically talking about Alolan Granbull, going into specific details with it. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense that Alolan Granbull could be a thing. We do think that Johto forms will be found in these new games. It would make a lot of sense with the alternate universe and Kanto being next to Johto. Maybe in this universe, the Johto Pokemon came over to Alola. You know, why did the Kanto Pokemon get there? Could be the same way the Johto Pokemon got there, and Alolan Granbull makes a lot of sense. It did just get the fairy typing, but while I actually think it's pretty cool as a fairy, a lot of people were confused that, you know, Granbull became a fairy Pokemon, so it'd be cool to see this thing more kind of like what people expected and give it just a different form, or maybe just go completely different with Granbull. It's a Pokemon that people really like, and beyond getting the fairy form, it hasn't really gotten a lot of attention, so it would be cool to see this one, and that might be why they target Granbull specifically.
In terms of how it could happen, we're going to look at the leaks a bit more closely. So the most recent one goes into quite a lot of detail about how the Alolan Granbull might happen. It also mentions an Alolan Snubbull form, so both Snubbull and Granbull could get the Alolan forms. We've seen certain Pokemon that don't get it, so Cubone doesn't have an Alolan form even though Marowak does, but then we've seen certain Pokemon that do, obviously like Vulpix and Ninetales or Sandshrew and Sandslash both have the Alolan form. In this case, it looks like maybe Alolan Snubbull and Alolan Granbull would exist. So both of these Pokemon's typing would change. Snubbull would change to a pure ground type, and Granbull would change to a ground and fighting type, which seems to make so much sense. Why isn't Granbull already a fighting type? It learns close combat, but it just looks, it's a boxer dog. It should box, it should fight. So fighting makes so much sense for Alolan Granbull in my opinion. It also will have the ability Intimidate for Snubbull, but there's a new ability for Granbull, which would be Knockback. This sounds insane. What it means is contact moves have a 20% chance to switch the opposing Pokemon out. That is a very strong ability. Anything that can switch your opponent out can be a very good move, like Roar, Dragon Tail. These moves stop your opponent from setting up, for example. They lose any stat boosts that they have, but if you're fast enough, you can switch them out before they've even moved. So this is a very strong ability. It is only a 20% chance for it to activate with contact moves, but most moves that Granbull will be going for will be contact moves, especially if it's now a fighting type, and it will be really great if it can activate. In terms of their designs, they have the colour scheme of an actual bulldog and are more muscular, and they stand on all fours rather than on their two legs. So it looks like they're stronger and more menacing down on all fours. I think that's a really interesting design change. Probably won't change too much in terms of shape outside of just going onto all fours, but I think that's really cool, and it makes sense why they'd be then a ground type, because they are closer to the ground. Now, having said all of this, this is from one leak, so definitely take it with a pinch of salt. However, everything that I've just mentioned seems like it could come directly from a trailer. When we get trailers of new Pokemon, what we tend to find out is their typing and also any abilities that they might have, especially if it's a new ability. We don't really know about stats so much, and we don't get any mention of stats in this leak. So it's very plausible that this could be the information that was in an upcoming trailer that the leaker has just happened to see before it has been released.
Moving on to why it would be awesome, it's really easy just to say, well, this would be an awesome, powerful Pokemon. I mean, Granbull is an intimidating mon, and making it a ground fighting type Pokemon would just make it so much more intimidating. The way they have it sound, you know, that's going to be more muscular, it's going to have the color scheme of a bulldog, it just seems like a terrifying thing. And having it ground fighting, I think all of it's going to come together into a really, really cool Pokemon. Along with the ability Knockback, I mean, this thing is going to become more of a threat right away. It's going to have powerful stab moves with Earthquake and close combat, and Knockback could really change the tide of a battle. To go along with that, we actually decided to change a few of the stats, and we actually think this is something that they might go a little bit, you know, crazier with, because we don't know if this thing's going to just be bulkier and slower, or maybe it's going to be faster now that it's on all fours. It's kind of up to interpretation. What we decided would make the most sense in just kind of the way it looks and just stats in general is to drop its speed a little bit. It's getting a lot more, you know, muscular and bulky. It's not going to be moving as quickly on all fours, and it wasn't a fast thing to begin with, so I don't really see how dropping it is going to make it faster. I mean, if Granbull really wanted to run on all fours normally, it could do that. So this guy's going to have 30 speed, and then add a little bit more into special defense. I'll lose some of its special attack because it doesn't need that at all. I mean, this is a physical monster, and then gain a little bit more in defense. It's more well-rounded with 90, 80, 80, which is great for bulk. Now, it already had 120 attack, which goes perfectly with its ground and fighting its typing and the way it looks. This thing is going to be a physical monster, and I will absolutely love seeing it. I don't even think it's going to learn too many new moves because it already had a pretty decent, move coverage. There might be some different things like some more fighting moves, some more ground moves, and maybe just general physical coverage options as well. That'd be really cool. There might be move tutors in this game. Be very sweet to see. And one idea that we had is maybe agility now that it's on all fours, and that would be the way to give it speed along with the bulk. We're not as sure on that. It might not be the best move in general for it, but just in general, I mean, this thing is going to be fantastic offensively and defensively. And I've said a lot. I think there's still more to say, so I'm going to just throw it over to Sam.
Sure. Yeah, this Pokemon would be really cool with this distribution. I mean, it's important to note that Granbull already has an incredible move pool. Generally, normal types back from Generation 1 and 2 could learn many different moves, and that is definitely the case with Granbull. It has all the elemental punches, it has play rough, it has normal type moves, it has earthquake and close combat already, so it's not even like it's learning new stab moves. These are moves that it already learns, and it just has great coverage, so we're not worried about it not having the right moves to abuse with this new typing. But just something like agility could help if it does get that speed boost, or maybe a sword stance. That could be really helpful. Maybe priority in Mach Punch, but if it's on all fours, I don't think it will be doing half as much punching, so maybe not that either. But yeah, I think that this would be a great stat distribution. It would be able to take those hits and threaten Pokemon, maybe even switching them out with those contact moves. So it could be really fun to use. Also, obviously, having the ground typing, it would be an electric community. Electric communities are fantastic to have on teams. Not immune to the dragon types anymore, but ground types are always great to have. And the other move that we would maybe consider with this, if there are move tutors, maybe it would learn Stealth Rock. Ground types generally do learn Stealth Rock, and actually a lot of the normal types from Generation 1 and Generation 2 also learn Stealth Rock, so that would be a really good thing for Granbull to learn. It would be able to help the team a lot in terms of setting up Stealth Rock and then just putting in damage. And I think another way of using this would be on a Trick Room team. That could really work out. If it is this slow, it means that it could come in, do a lot of damage, and because you're going first, if your knockback activates and you switch the opponent out, they won't have a chance to attack that turn, which would be incredible. So this thing I think would definitely be a monster on Trick Room teams, so that's something to watch out for. In terms of how likely this would be, I'm thinking that this is quite a likely occurrence. I think that Alolan forms are very, very likely to happen, because if we're looking at the new games as an alternate timeline, then it could just be that different Pokemon managed to migrate to the Alola region and therefore changed their form while there. So I think that Alolan forms are very likely to be a new part of this game. However, we are really only basing this on speculation and leaks, and so it's not the strongest of evidence. We've got no hard evidence to point towards it. Nothing in the previous games say that there could be other Alolan forms. So I'm going to leave this as a 7 out of 10. It's a good, strong score, but we don't have enough to go on to bring that score any higher.
When we look at how cool this would be, it's not going to be the highest score, but at the same time, this is still a really cool concept. Both me and Sam love Alolan forms. There are a ton of other fans that love Alolan forms and want to see more, so just a new one in general would be great, but we've also talked about other things that would just be so much more important for the game itself, give us so much more to do than just one Pokemon getting a different form change. And really with the Alolan forms, they don't even get a base stat or total difference. So while they can be different and a little bit better competitively, it is still a minor change and it's a lot of fun, but a 6 out of 10 really suits what we'd be getting here.
So that gives Alolan Granbull a final score of 6.5 out of 10, which is very respectable, and it would be really cool to see this Pokemon in the game, if not just for that ability Knockback. Knockback would be incredible, and I would love to see that used competitively. But that's all for today on my channel. Please go over to John's channel to watch all about Alolan Qwilfish. Go over there, give it a like, give him your support, and also maybe subscribe while you're there. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I've been foofootoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.